The radical left's agendas are attacking your American values. But conservatives like you haven't forgotten what this country was built on. My friends, the Heritage Foundation exists to make sure your voice is heard and to represent your values in the swamp and quagmire of D.C. The Heritage Foundation stands for your values and will not give up the fight because they know you never will. Paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. There's a lot going on in this country today, but one of the things that I think I need to do, and I've done throughout my career here, is to get into some of the heavy substantive stuff, because in some quarters of this country, we're losing the debate for America. In other quarters, we have individuals, they call themselves influencers, who are undermining America. And we have still others who believe that the best way to compete against and to defeat the Marxist Islamists is to be Marxist Islamist light. And so I think I've got my work cut out for me. I think you do too, and I think I want to jump into this right now. Now let's take this case of this Mamdani as an example, but he's only one of many. He's using this word now, affordability. That's the new word the Marxists are using to justify the fundamental transformation of America. Yet Marxist regimes do not create prosperity, opportunity, or abundance. They produce shortages, impoverishment, and dislocation. This is what they really mean by equality. Moreover, Marxism about coercion and the abuse of power. So individual freedom and rights are seized as a condition of centralizing power in the hands of the so-called masterminds and their ideological ambitions on the road to the so-called promised land. New York is expensive in large part due to already existing soft-Marxism in the city. Rent controls, high taxes, taxes and user fees galore, smothering regulations, all-powerful public sector unions, and the list goes on and on. Despite being the financial capital of America, if not the world, the governmental practices within the city and imposed on its citizens are heavily socialistic. Equality in destitution. Equality in destitution is what is being offered, and a powerful police state to oversee and enforce it. New York City will continue to depopulate, at least of those citizens who work, pay taxes, invest, and run businesses. It will attract the destitute, more welfare recipients, and illegal aliens seeking sanctuary and freebies. As it becomes increasingly unlivable, the grip of the governing Marxists will become tighter and tighter, and their class warfare rhetoric angrier and more unhinged. We've seen it many times before, albeit mostly in other countries. Marxism is a horribly failed and flawed ideology in every respect. It is inhumane and evil. It attracts the support of politicians who excel at demagoguery, propaganda, and deceit, like Zohran Mamdani and his ilk, and little else. Mamdani is only a few years older than Fidel Castro, when he claimed to be a Democrat fighting for the common man. How'd that turn out? How'd that turn out? I want to play a little bit of the late, great Professor Milton Friedman, Nobel laureate, because I'm guessing half to two-thirds of this audience never heard of Milton Friedman or never heard of what Milton Friedman had to say. We miss somebody like him. Walter Williams and Tom Sowell and so many great men and women of the past, and Tom Sowell, the current. But I want to play a little bit, and then I want to circle back and get into this even more, because I think this is necessary now. I've got to use this format. I've always used it for educational purposes, but I've got to do it more now. Here is a Milton Friedman with Phil Donahue in 1979. So that's 46 years ago. Why capitalism is best. Cut 17, go.
When you see around the globe the maldistribution of wealth, the desperate plight of millions of people in underdeveloped countries, when you see so few haves and so many have-nots, when you see the greed and the concentration of power within, did you ever have a moment of doubt about capitalism and whether greed's a good idea to run on?
Well, first of all, tell me, is there some society you know that doesn't run on greed? You think Russia doesn't run on greed? You think China doesn't run on greed? What is greed? Of course, none of us are greedy. It's only the other fellow who's greedy. The world runs on individuals pursuing their separate interests. The great achievements of civilization have not come from government bureaus. Einstein didn't construct his theory under order from a bureaucrat. Henry Ford didn't revolutionize the automobile industry that way. In the only cases in which the masses have escaped from the kind of grinding poverty you're talking about, the only cases in recorded history are where they have had capitalism and largely free trade. If you want to know where the masses are worst off, it's exactly in the kinds of societies that depart from that. So that the record of history is absolutely crystal clear that there is no alternative way so far discovered of improving the lot of the ordinary people that can hold a candle to the productive activities that are unleashed by a free enterprise system.
But it seems to reward not virtue as much as ability to manipulate the system.
And what does reward virtue? You think the communist commissar rewards virtue? You think a Hitler rewards virtue? You think, excuse me, if you'll pardon me, do you think American presidents reward virtue? Do they choose their appointees on the basis of the virtue of the people appointed or on the basis of their political clout? Is it really true that political self-interest is nobler somehow than economic self-interest? You know, I think you're taking a lot of things for granted. And just tell me where in the world you find these angels who are going to organize society for us. Well, I don't even trust you to do that.
More Milton Friedman, 1979. Spreading the wealth. Cut 18, go.
Why is it we have so many millionaires and everything in the United States, and we still have so many impoverished people who try to get up into the world? Why is it we have this lack of money where people who can't support themselves decently and get a decent job, where all these big men are up on top making oodles and oodles of money? They don't need it. They can only eat that much, sleep in the bed.
And what do you suppose they do? If they don't eat it and don't use it, what do you suppose they do?
They hoard it.
And what do you mean they hoard it? You mean they put it under their pillows?
That's right. No, they keep investing it.
Investing it in what?
That's right, yeah.
What do they invest it in?
Well, in oil and everything, where, I mean, all these other people who are
What are they invested in? Don't get off the subject.
No.
What are they invested in?
Well, they invested in a lot of different things that the little people need.
Well, do they invest it in factories?
Yes.
Does some of that money end up in machines?
Yes.
Do those factories and machines provide ordinary working people with jobs or not? What do you suppose the productivity of this country would be and of the wage rate would be if the total amount of capital in this country today with what it was 100 years ago. Where do you suppose the improvements in productivity come from, except from the investment by people of their savings? But let me go to your fundamental question. First place, nirvana is not for this world. There is no paradise. Of course we've got a lot of people who are poorly off. But if you look at it over time, if you get a sense of proportion, the well-being of ordinary people has been the main thing that has been improved by economic progress and economic growth and development. And most residual hard cases of poverty today are the result, again, of a failure of government.
Mm-hmm. And then there's this. Go.
The essential notion of a capitalist society, which I'll come back to, is voluntary cooperation, voluntary exchange. The essential notion of a socialist society is fundamentally force. If the government is the master, if society is to be run from the center, what are you doing? You ultimately have to order people what to do. What is your ultimate sanction? Go back a ways. Take it on a milder level. Whenever you try to do good with somebody else's money, you are committed to using force. How can you do good with somebody else's money unless you first take it away from them? The only way you can take it away from them is by the threat of force. You have a policeman, a tax collector, who comes and takes it from them.
And this is the whole point of my book on power. Because we can talk about liberty, we can talk about rights, we can talk about capitalism, but in the end, what Milton Friedman's talking about there is power. Who exercises it, who controls it, how it's used, under what circumstances. Now, this virtue signaling is constant with the Marxists and the economic socialists. Montesquieu, if you've listened to this program, you know he was a philosopher from the Enlightenment period and the most widely read philosopher during our constitutional period. He said, "Who would think it? Even virtue has need of limits, so that one cannot abuse power. Power must check power by the arrangement of things." Hundreds of years later, the late British Christian theologian, scholar, author C.S. Lewis underscored Montesquieu's point about the abuse of power disguised as virtue. Here's what he wrote. "Of all tyrannies, a tyranny exercised for the good of its victims may be the most oppressive. It may be better to live under robber barons than under omnipotent moral busybodies. The robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated. But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with the approval of their own conscience. They may be more likely to go to heaven, yet at the same time likelier to make hell on earth. Their very kindness stings with intolerable insult. To be cured, if you will, against one's will, and cured of states, which we may not regard as disease, is to be put on a level of those who have not yet reached the age of reason, or those who never will. To be classed with infants, imbeciles, and domestic animals. He's saying there they treat you like a moron. That you're incapable of feeding yourself, you're incapable of making a living, but for them. Now, the conflict, this is all in my book on power, and it's very important. The conflict between honoring and complying with the institutional limits placed on power. And we have them in our country, and they're being subverted. And the allure of self-aggrandizement is both real and perhaps inevitable over time. As such, the once authentic and thought to be effective institutions for limiting excesses of power are transformed into Potemkin-like fictions, used to disguise the true intentions of the abusers, and worse, are transformed into tools in support of the exercise of what I call soft negative power. This is, as I mentioned the other week, authoritarian democracy. That is what this guy, Mamdani, is promoting. authoritarian democracy. Authoritarian democracy is when a democracy begins the slide into a form of authoritarianism. Not all at once, but steadily, where authoritarian attributes slowly proliferate, and one branch of the democracy begins to envelop the others, or where all branches coalesce into a whole. Either way, the exercise of power is steadily centralized, and the citizenry increasingly peripheral. I wrote this 4 months ago. This book comes out in 2 weeks. Authoritarian democracies adopt and use the tactics of authoritarian regimes, albeit at first with more of a glove than an iron fist, but the underlying attributes are there. For example, legislatures have passed tyrannical laws, but which laws are said to be legitimate simply because the legislature adopted them. Courts that disregard due process for its citizens, but which trials are said to do justice because they were held in a court of law with defense counsel and juries present. The use of law is said to be a legitimate application of power because it's the law, not because it's proper, just, or moral. Even today, the impact of authoritarian democracy is seeped into our society's psyche so successfully that the late Austrian-American economist Ludwig von Mises observed that one of the worst tyrannies of all, Marxism, has become part of the West psyche. He said, to a considerable extent, without knowing it, many people are philosophical Marxists, although they use different names for their philosophical ideas. Okay, I want to build on this. We're going to do it all hour. I think it's very, very important right now. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the American flag is under attack. We saw it mocked and burned in L.A. during protests. And when people attack the American flag, aren't they attacking everything it stands for? The sacrifice of our troops, the values of our founding, the promise of liberty and justice for all. Thankfully, patriots like you haven't forgotten what the flag stands for. You're the reason the Heritage Foundation created Flags of Our Fathers, the meaning and history of the U.S. flag. This is a resource for patriots like you to remind and refresh ourselves of the American flag's history and deep importance to our nation. Claim your free copy today at heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. If we lose the meaning of our flag, we risk losing our nation. That's why it's imperative that patriots just like you take advantage of the Heritage Foundation's new resource, Flags of Our Fathers. Let's do our part in this fight by going to heritage.org/Levin right now. Heritage.org/LEVIN, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. There's simply no programs on TV or radio that provide a format for the kind of substantive information, argumentation, knowledge, and so forth that I want to provide and that I'm going to continue to provide to as many people as I possibly can. The ideas that I talk about are not invented by me. They are articulated by me. But there's a gaping hole in our media, in our society. Particularly young people are not hearing the truth about freedom, the truth about capitalism, the truth about unalienable rights, the truth about our history. Too many people who sit as I sit are wringing their hands, or they're focused on Epstein, or they're focused on something else. It seems to me the more media platforms we have, the more static there is. And so we will be here. We're going back to basics. Be right back. Folks, we've seen in our streets over the past several months the burning of the American flag. Even worse, we saw the Mexican flag and the Palestinian flag waved defiantly during LA's violent riots. There's something seriously wrong with that picture. The American flag is under attack across the country, and with it the American promise of liberty. But while the left attacks our flag and everything else we hold dear, bold conservatives like you across the country refuse to let the flag fall. That's why the Heritage Foundation created Flags of Our Fathers, a critical resource for patriots who want to remind ourselves of the American flag's history. Flags of Our Fathers contains the untold history of the flag's creation and the meaning of the stars and stripes. Let's take a stand for the American flag today by going to heritage.org/Levin, heritage.org/Levin, and claiming your free copy of Flags of Our Fathers. That's heritage.org/Levin, paid for by the Heritage Foundation.
Mark Levin, the champion of liberty and true conservatism. Call Mark now, 877-381-3811.
So let's continue our defense of liberty in our country and apply it to what we see taking place right now. And I'm going to go back to my book on power, because that's the nub of the matter. That's the nub of the matter. There are those, perhaps many, who benefit from the government's use of what I call soft negative power, including when that power is used, for example, to forcibly redistribute the wealth and property of those who produced and earned it, for the use and enrichment of others beyond the usual and basic needs of a civil society, and justify what would otherwise be considered thievery as noble and even moral. The beneficiaries of such soft negative power are fully aware that they did not earn what they have received, but delude themselves in various ways that they are deserving of it. Democracies have the seeds of their own destruction within them. Indeed, today's soft negative power, and when you read the book, you'll understand more broadly what that means. Soft negative power is ascendant. That is, the West, which obviously includes the United States, is regressing toward the more primitive way of thinking and governing and the more aggressive form of negative power. The circle of liberty and security surrounding each individual is shrinking as the supposed common good and public interest, defined and determined by a relative handful of masterminds and politicians, is said to be increasingly imperative and paramount. The assumed legitimacy for interference in the individual's life has become so routine, assumed to be both necessary and inevitable, that their justifications have become less important. The growth of centralized government and its attendant authority are presented as, and indeed seen by many as, predestined, even essential to human and societal progress. And I go on later in the book about rights. What are rights? Well, we know about unalienable rights. We know about the Declaration of Independence. It talks about unalienable rights. Rights, or moral truths, are God-given through natural law and therefore transcendent and universal. And through right reason, man discovers these truths or is innately aware of them. And the law. What is the law? Frederick Bastiat, absolutely brilliant man in his day, obviously was French. He was more than a politician. He was despised by Marx, as you can imagine. When the law has exceeded its proper function, he wrote in essays called The Law, it has not done so merely in some inconsequential and debatable matters. The law has gone further than this. It has acted in direct opposition to its own purpose. The law has been used to destroy its own objective. It has been applied to annihilating the justice that it was supposed to maintain, to limiting and destroying rights, which its real purpose was to respect. The law has placed the collective force at the disposal of the unscrupulous, who wish without risk to exploit the person, liberty, and property of others. It has converted plunder into a right in order to protect plunder. And it has converted lawful defense into a crime in order to punish lawful defense. This is what you're hearing and seeing. I don't want to go through the entire book this evening, but we will over the course of time. These issues are very, very important, and they're not getting the sunlight, they're not getting the discussion that they require. And you can see it. We conservatives, we own talk radio, for all intents and purposes. We're not using it properly. We have big podcasters. They're not using it properly. They're into conspiracy theories. They're into some bizarre belief systems. Some of them are into abject bigotry and Jew hatred. Some of them claim to be for America first when they attack American history, the American military, and everything American. They are abusing their platforms. They are driven not by altruism, not by sincerity. They're driven by clicks and hits and subscriptions and God knows what else. Because that grabs the attention. It grabs the attention of the left-wing media. It's a problem. But we can't fix everything. We can note it. But considering the size of the audience here on my Westwood One nationally syndicated program, the size of the audience on my Fox program, and our quite sizable audience on Blaze on our digital TV program, as well as with my books, I have to do what I think is right, and I have to do what I have to do. I just feel there's a whole generation of young people who have not been educated, as many of us have at least been exposed to, the great marvel that is America, and why it is a great marvel. I was watching a clip of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk's organization. Watched some of the debates. I didn't have a lot of time, but just watched some. People were sending them to me. And I noticed there were thousands of young people cheering an individual who's trashing our history. Cheering him. Cheering an individual who's denouncing our military. There's something horribly wrong with that scene. Horribly wrong with that scene. And so as I was preparing today, and I prepare all day and all night, as Mr. Producer will tell you, I got to thinking, well, I spend more time than anybody talking about the founding, our Declaration, the Constitution, digging deeply into it, the founders and the framers, pre-America, post-American founding. We get into philosophy now. I got to do it more. I need to do more. Because if I don't do it, it won't be done. These people call themselves influencers, and now others are calling them influencers. Influencers for what, exactly? We have one person out there, our friend Megyn Kelly, who's raised serious issues about intelligence influence over Epstein, and dismisses the former Prime Minister of Israel, Bennett. Why should we listen to him, she basically says. I mean, after all, the U.S. attorney in that case, Acosta, said as much, that the intel agencies were involved. It would either be the United States or Israel, she proclaimed. But Acosta never said that. The media outlet that wrote the story, and it's out there for anybody with 2 eyes to read, and I've linked to it twice on my social sites, said that he was told that Acosta said that or was aware of it. Now, in a court of law, that would be called hearsay. That is, it's utterly unreliable. But even outside a court of law, it's utterly unreliable. So if you believe these things, you should at least contact Mr. Acosta and ask him directly. But there's flatly nothing, zero And yet these people have spent days and weeks and hope to spend weeks more. Why? We want the truth. How do you know you don't have it? Now, you're in the wrong place if this is what turns you on, really. We've commented on it. We did not raise conspiracy theories. Some people were stabbing the president in the back. We didn't do that. Some were stabbing the attorney general in the back. We didn't do that. Not involved in all this crap. The biggest city in America, the financial center of the United States and the world, is about to be taken over by Marxist Islamists. We got 3 guys running. The mayor, Cuomo, who couldn't beat this guy in a primary, but he seems to think he should be able to beat him in a general, and our friend Curtis Sliwa, they're all running. It doesn't appear that any of them are going to get out. Maybe Cuomo, if there's a full moon and 17 stars are lined up, or whatever he said. So he's going to win. He's going to win if that narrative continues. He's going to win. And not with a majority of the vote, with a plurality of the vote. You have 100% of the power with a plurality of the vote. So we'll stay focused here. We've got to win this young generation back. And the way you win it back is not to concede liberty, to concede capitalism, to concede morality, to concede your country's history, to concede Israel, to concede Ukraine. That's not the way you win it back. That's what lazy people do. Affordability is the new word. We know it's the new word because they keep repeating it. Repetition is the coin of the realm for the fascists and the Marxists and the autocrats. Affordability. The Marxists are going to give us affordability. They can't even produce enough toilet paper for their people, but they're going to give us affordability, don't you know? They're about coercion and power. They must reduce the power of the individual. They must denude respect for the individual. It's not up to the individual. It's not the free will of the individual that matters. It's none of those things. It's what the masterminds decide. And so they're going to talk about affordability. They're going to create these images of equality. We need to force them. You compare something with something, as Milton Friedman once brilliantly put it. Compare real, live, tangible, contextual Marxism and socialism with capitalism in reality. Now, I'm going to take a little break, and I want to continue with this. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, the American flag is under attack. We saw it mocked and burned in L.A. during protests. And when people attack the American flag, aren't they attacking everything it stands for? The sacrifice of our troops, the values of our founding, the promise of liberty and justice for all. Thankfully, patriots like you haven't forgotten what the flag stands for. You're the reason the Heritage Foundation created Flags of Our Fathers, the meaning and history of the U.S. flag. This is a resource for patriots like you to remind and refresh ourselves of the American flag's history and deep importance to our nation. Claim your free copy today at heritage.org/Levin. That's heritage.org/LEVIN. If we lose the meaning of our flag, we risk losing our nation. That's why it's imperative that patriots just like you take advantage of the Heritage Foundation's new resource, Flags of Our Fathers. Let's do our part in this fight by going to heritage.org/Levin right now. Heritage.org/LEVIN, paid for by the Heritage Foundation. When you redistribute wealth, what do you do? What do? You destroy the creation of wealth. So there's less and less to redistribute. Why do you destroy the creation of wealth? Because the people who create wealth aren't going to create as much, or they're not going to create it anymore. Because you're taking their wealth and you're redistributing it. Now, this is just basic stuff. This is human behavior, and it's proper human behavior. It's normal human behavior. You're going to take my stuff. I'm not going to create it anymore. I'm going to create less of it. Or in the case of New York City, I'm going to leave here and create it somewhere else. So the idea of redistributing wealth is a flawed, phony, defective idea right out of the gate. And then when you have to surrender your individual liberty and power, your free will, to some 33-year-old who thinks he's Fidel Castro, because he thinks this ought to happen or that ought to happen, and the guy's never held a private sector job in his life, that's not rational. That's just pure power, based on an ideological framework. And that pure power based on an ideological framework has resulted in the starvation of millions, tens of millions, and the death of tens of millions. And that's the basis for the ideology. Not that that would be the outcome, but that's disastrous enough, is it not? They talk about equality. Well, what does that mean? Equality without freedom is a prison camp. Equality without freedom is a prison camp. You need freedom. And when we speak of equality, we mean a just law that applies to everybody. The equality of law and the application of the law. It's nothing to do with economic equality, because there's no possible thing called economic equality. Look at Cambodia. They killed 25% of their population, and they never, in their view, Pol Pot never got equality, because sometimes two poor peasants in the rice field, one guy had more rice in his basket than the other. That's the nature of the beast, isn't it? What does it mean, equality? I'm not LeBron James. I can't play basketball. I'm not as tall as him. I'm not as gifted as him, so I'm not a billionaire. He is. Okay, so how's that supposed to work? When you watch sports, are you looking for equality, or are you looking for superior athletes? We used to appreciate success in this country. That's now a bad word. It's DEI. DEI. This is the only country on the face of the earth. Only country on the face of the earth where taxi cab drivers, where plumbers, electricians, construction workers, and on, can walk into a supermarket, have available to them all kinds of bread, meats, fowl, fish, you name it, 25 different types of deodorant. It goes on and on and on, where we live better than kings and queens lived 100 years ago. That's not due to Marxism. That's due to capitalism. And capitalism is you. That's what it is. Your capitalism. The government is socialism. Your capitalism. I'm going to extend my remarks on this later, after the top of the hour. We'll take our top of the hour break. We will be back. I will continue on this. We will move into some other areas, but I just feel it's too important. It's too important not to use this platform to help get our country back. And that includes understanding why it's so great. And we, the American people, are so great. I'll be right back. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811. 877-381-3811. I also point out in my book on power that what the Marxists do is wherever there is dissatisfaction, wherever there is imperfection, and And of course, there's always dissatisfaction and imperfection. You're dealing with tens of millions of people in an imperfect society. The most perfect, but nonetheless imperfect. They claim to have the answers to resolving those things. And they are expert finger pointers. So it's not work harder or maybe get a better education or save some of your money or any. No. It's the system, the capitalist system. It's the system that's out to destroy you. I want to remind everybody that Ronald Reagan won 2 massive landslide elections, just as Donald Trump did this last time. And let me tell you why Donald Trump's election is even more remarkable. Because the demographics in this country have changed so significantly since the Reagan presidency. But both fabulous presidents and candidates and great landslides. But Ronald Reagan won a mass of the blue-collar vote, the union vote. He was endorsed by the Teamsters twice. And he won the union vote. And he won the blue-collar vote. He won the white... Well, he won all the votes, pretty much. But you understand the point. But he didn't win it, I would remind some of these so-called influencers, by embracing the other side's ideology, by embracing the other side's economic ideas. He didn't, for instance, say we should build 10,000 low-income homes to help young people to sort of counter the left. No, he rejected that completely. He was a free marketeer. Imperfect at that, by the way. Much more similar to Trump than people realize. He wasn't into tariffs, but he was into quotas. And he put very significant quotas on Japan on electronics because Japan was ripping us off. I remember this. He also put heavy quotas in place on motorcycles being imported from Japan because Harley-Davidson was going out of business. But that's a side point. My point is that these things that I'm talking about, he embraced very, very strongly. So it doesn't require you to pretend that you're rejiggering your principles in order to make them attractive. Maybe you rejigger your arguments, but you don't rejigger your principles and start embracing socialism, government-centric solutions, and on and on and on. And I'm noticing more and more of this by Republicans on Capitol Hill. I'm noticing more and more of this by so-called conservative organizations, especially those, well, the Turning Point is an example, which I love, by the way. I think is so important. Do you know I actually used to be invited to speak there, Mr. Producer? Not anymore, though. Not anymore. It's okay. It's okay. Really. Don't know that I'd be able to go anyway. Too much going on. But all that said, you don't need to sell out your first principles, whether they be economic or otherwise. We have to better articulate our principles and then apply them to what's going on in the world. Explain that you want jobs, good-paying jobs, homes, affordability, then follow us, not them. The reason why cities are unaffordable is because the left runs them. The reason why cities are not safe is because the left runs them. And I can go on and on. And again, you have to compare something to something. You can't let this guy, Mamdani, get away with his with his BS. So societies are imperfect, and there are gaps. And, of course, they will seize on them. So you got to confront that. And as I pointed out, redistribution of wealth destroys the creation of wealth because people aren't going to want to create that which they don't own. There's a level beyond basic taxation for the basic needs of society. Redistributing wealth is not the job of the government. That's what happens in the private sector. When you give somebody a tip, you're redistributing a wealth. When you decide to eat at this restaurant versus this one, you're redistributing your wealth. When you decide to buy that automobile versus that one, you are redistributing your wealth. In other words, capitalism is all about redistributing wealth voluntarily, so that both the person who earns it and the person who receives it from the person who earns it are both satisfied. That's the whole point, redistribution of wealth. But the government redistribution of wealth is about force, coercion, the abuse and misuse of power. And why we think these people are more noble than us is beyond me. They're less noble than us. Less noble. So the key here is the rule of law. And the key in the rule of law is power. Our rule of law is the Constitution. The Constitution is what? The Constitution is a distribution of power. Which is why the Democrats and the left and the Marxists and the socialists and all the rest of them hate our Constitution. They don't want a distribution of power. They want the power. That's the point. So in order for Mamdani to even pretend to go through the motions of creating nirvana on earth, he must seize power, and a whole lot of it. That's what he has to do. And that should be the debate that Cuomo, the mayor, Sleever bring up. This guy wants the power to shut down your business. He wants the power to take your home from you. He wants the power to determine whether you get food one day or another day. He wants the power to determine if the trains run on time. He wants all that power. And who is he? First of all, he's a bigot. He's a racist. He's an anti-Semite. He is those things. His father supports suicide bombers. He won't denounce his father. He won't denounce global intifada, which means he obviously supports these terrorists. Because if he didn't, he would say so. He would say, those aren't my words. That's what he said. Those aren't, okay, they're somebody else's words, and you were asked about it. What are your words? And he won't denounce it. He won't denounce it because that's part of his base. Now, I'm using him as an example, as a foil, but he's a real live foil. So who does this person hurt the most? Working people, blue-collar people, union people in the private sector. The cops, the firefighters, that's who he hurts. When the city goes to hell, it'll be those people who lose their jobs. It'll be those people who have to deal with the violence. And there will be violence. Because he creates disunity. He has to create disunity. He has to create a them against us mentality. That's Marxism. It's a poison. I'm so thankful I wrote this book when I did. I mean, it's just kind of crazy how these books, they're published at a time when I feel they need to be published. First paragraph, many have written about and debated the issue of power, including the ancients and modern philosophers, scholars, statesmen alike. Why? Because power determines your social arrangements, quality of life. And more to the point of this book, whether you are free or enslaved or some degree of either. In short, it determines your personal fate, the fate of your community, and the fate of a nation. There are infinite ways to view power, innumerable contexts and circumstances in which to apply it. There's truly no simple, concise, all-purpose definition for what is meant by power. Clearly, however, it's more than a mere word. To spend time thinking, talking, writing about it is not a mere abstraction or useless amorphism or an elitist esotericism. Power is a term meant to describe some kind of force or energy that surrounds us all the time. It's both ubiquitous in your life and the life of the entire society, and is consequential in every way. Power is a core reality and characteristic of human existence. Yet without more to go on, such as context and circumstance, it can be ambiguous and elusive. I mean, you don't sit around thinking about power every day, and yet In some contexts you do, but you may not realize it. In almost every context you exercise it. In all human pursuits, including personal pursuits and life events, power matters. At a macro level, power shapes economies, politics, and governments. Moreover, there are many variations of power. For most people, there are unstated and often unnoticed or obscure kinds of power, but they exist and they matter. Indeed, power is inextricably linked to liberty, although it is not to be confused with liberty. Power determines if there's too much liberty, like anarchy, or too little, like tyranny, depending on how power is exercised, who exercises it, and if it is bound by human rights. History is replete with examples of tyrants grabbing power in the name of liberty. Prime example exists in Marxist regimes where liberation through revolution, class warfare where the masses, so-called oppressed, are said to revolt against the powerful few, the so-called oppressors. And the promise of liberty through community and collectivism results in hellish, genocidal police states, ruling over the people in their name but without their consent and with an iron fist. And it goes on. This is a word that if I have anything to do with it, it's going to be as common as the word liberty and the word rights. It's going to be as common because we need to understand it. We need to embrace it. We need to use it in certain ways, and we need to fight it in certain ways, which is the point of the book. And I've spent an hour and 20 minutes now explaining things that are not being in anywhere else. Not because I want to pat myself on the head, but because it's very frustrating to me how we have access to all these platforms, radio and TV and beyond, and how we misuse them and abuse them. People are making a ton of money off these platforms. And so there's certain issues that are out there that they're not going to give up on, because all they need is a little sliver of the population subscribing, watching, or listening. But that's not how I roll. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If you're with one of the big three wireless carriers, you're really overpaying for your service, period. You're paying for thousands of retail stores you never go into. You're paying for unnecessary perks you never use. You're paying a massive premium for what you think is superior 5G service. Guess what? Pure Talk uses the same 5G network on the same 5G towers. The only difference, they don't charge you for any of the garbage. Instead, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, plenty of data for just $25 a month. Folks, that's less than half the price of the big guys during a time when saving a buck really matters. I am a Pure Talk customer. I have been for years. I made the switch. It's easy. You can even keep your phone and your number. So do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. And you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. You can switch over to Pure Talk in as little as 10 minutes. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin. To switch to Pure Talk, wireless by Americans, for Americans. For those who are wondering, our ratings on radio are extremely strong across the country. Our ratings on Life, Liberty, and Levin, extremely strong. You know, this 8 p.m. slot on the weekends is the toughest slot. You know, 8 p.m. on Sunday, I'm up against 60 Minutes. I'm up against America's Funniest Videos. When football's in there, we're up against football. We do very, very well. The Saturday show, too, extremely well. I want to thank all of you who watch very much and who listen to this program. I have an extremely loyal audience, you folks. It's just really appreciated. I want to remind you on the book signings. Saturday, August 2nd, 1 p.m. Eastern, Books and Greetings, located in the Northvale Square, Northvale, New Jersey. Northvale, New Jersey. We can't wait. It's a brand new environment for us. A family-owned independent bookstore, which we appreciate. Books and Greetings. They've been wanting to get the book signings, so we moved from bookends to books and greetings, and I'm glad we did. Saturday, August 9th at 10 a.m., Barnes & Noble, The Spectrum at Reston Town Center, Reston, Virginia. We've never done a book signing there either. They had closed that store. Now they reopened it. And kudos to Barnes & Noble. They've opened a lot more stores, rather. They've really updated them. They're beautiful stores. I love these bookstores. I'm just, kind of nerdy. That's Saturday, August 9th, 10 a.m. You might want to mark it down. In Reston, Virginia, Barnes & Noble, The Spectrum at Reston Town Center. There should be plenty of parking everywhere. Ken Langone, he's one of the billionaires behind Home Depot. There was a gentleman, Mr. Marcus, who really was the brains behind the whole thing, and he became the wealthiest of the handful of men who began this. They all were billionaires. One of them owns the Atlanta Falcons, and Langone is a philanthropist at this point and so forth, but he's always struck me as sort of a rhino. And I don't say this to criticize him. He knows what he is and was, and he was never supportive of Donald Trump. He wasn't sure he was going to vote for Donald Trump. And I remember him on Cavuto's show many times saying that. But he said something today on CNBC that I want you to listen to, because I agree 100%. But the fact that he said it shows the influence Donald Trump has had. You listen to these self-promoters who go on and on inside the Washington Beltway news groups, run with it, the websites run with it. Nobody listens to these people. They listen to the masses out there. This Ken Langone, a Home Depot, one of the co-founders, on CNBC today. Cut 12, go.
Look, let me tell you right now, I am sold on Trump. In fact, I'll say this. I think he's got a good shot at going down in history as one of our best presidents ever.
That is a real turnaround, because you didn't want to vote for him.
I tell you the reason. I want to tell you, I'm a believer. What I'm seeing happening is absolutely nothing short of a great thing. And there's a beat. People are walking with more bounce in there. It's all around.
I gave you quite a bit of grief.
Huh?
I gave you grief.
You give me grief?
I gave you grief when it was a binary choice. You're still complaining about Trump and it was a binary choice. It's like, are you kidding me?
Knowledge implies one thing. When you made a mistake, admit it.
Okay.
I think this guy is turning out to be a president.
Right.
One of the pilots on that miraculous trip to Iran that we wiped out, whatever the hell we wiped out.
Right.
He said, you're the only guy that in the presidency that would have done what you did. One of the pilots said that.
Yeah.
And you know what? He's probably right.
Mm-hmm. No, he is right. I don't think any other president would have the guts to do what Trump did. And he had to do it. In other words, it was compelled, but he was being advised by a lot of people not to do it, the pressure from the usual corners. I say he had to do it. He didn't have to do it, but he did it. And thank God he did. He's a great president. He's truly a great president. He's historic. He's iconic. And we really need to appreciate what we're witnessing. It'll be something when you look back on it years from now, but we're in the middle of it. We're in the middle of it, and it's very, very important that we... And I hear some Elise Stefanik, as only she can confront these anti-Semitic schools. We're going to hear from Mike Waltz, somebody I've always liked. He's also a war hero. He's up for UN ambassador. Of course, the Democrats are trying to cripple him, but they try to cripple anybody and everybody. Unless you're a vile, violent, illegal alien in this country illegally, in which case they will embrace you. I'll be right back. If you're with one of the big three wireless carriers, you're really overpaying for your service, period. You're paying for thousands of retail stores you never go into. You're paying for unnecessary perks you never use. You're paying a massive premium for what you think is superior 5G service. Guess what? Pure Talk uses the same 5G network on the same 5G towers. The only difference, they don't charge you for any of the garbage. Instead, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, plenty of data for just $25 $5 a month. Folks, that's less than half the price of the big guys during a time when saving a buck really matters. I am a Pure Talk customer. I have been for years. I made the switch. It's easy. You can even keep your phone and your number. So do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. You can switch over to Pure Talk in as little as 10 minutes. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin, to switch to Pure Talk, wireless by Americans for Americans.
Do you ever talk back to your radio? Then you must be listening to Mark Levin. Pick up the phone and call 877-381-3811.
Here we be. Elise Stefanik at the Education and Workforce hearing today. CUNY College, what is that? New York. College University of New York? I don't think so, but maybe it is. But the Chancellor, Dr. Felix Matos Rodriguez. It's unacceptable a former member of CARE is a senior employee at CUNY. She points out, of course, CARE is the Hamas front group that was founded at the Marriott Hotel next to the Philadelphia International Airport. That's it, City University, New York. I know it. Really, I did. Cut one, go.
I'm referencing the CUNY Chief Diversity Officer, who you hired in 2021. They were previously employed by CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations. Is that correct?
So she was hired to be the Chief Diversity Officer at the central office with no responsibility over cases that have to deal with students or faculty.
But yet you were aware that she was previously employed by CARE.
Again, I was not directly responsible for that.
Even though she was the senior chief diversity officer?
As I mentioned to you, I was not directly responsible for that hire.
So is it okay, from your perspective, obviously it is, to have a former employee of CARE? Let me remind you, CARE was a co-conspirator in a terrorist financing case and has ties to Hamas, a designated terrorist organization. Is she currently still employed by CUNY?
She is.
There you go. So no action, just words here today. Even further, and by the way, her salary is paid for by the New York taxpayers, correct?
We have the expectations of total professionalism and compliance with all the rules and policies of CUNY. Any employee that breaks our policies or our rules will be investigated.
But it obviously doesn't break CUNY's rules to have a senior employee who was previously employed by a terrorist-affiliated organization. That is unacceptable to New York taxpayers. It is unacceptable to American taxpayers. But it's not just that. Are you familiar with CUNY Clear? This is the clinical arm of CUNY School of Law.
CUNY Clear, I'm not familiar with them.
Well, I will remind you, the CUNY Clear founder and professor is the head of Mahmoud Khalil's Legal Defense Fund. Are you aware of that?
No.
Does it concern you that New York taxpayers are paying the salary for the legal defense fund of Mahmoud Khalil? And I'll remind you who Mahmoud Khalil is. This is the chief pro-Hamas agitator that led to the anti-Semitic encampments at Columbia, the rioting and violent takeover of Hamilton Hall, the harassment and physical assault of Jewish students.
And we do not condone any kind of anti-Semitism.
But you allow the head of the clinical legal organization and a professor to be the chief legal aide to Mahmoud Khalil and do his legal defense fund.
Those decisions are made in the clinics, are made in the individual campuses.
It goes up to you. You are the chancellor.
Those decisions are made.
So you take no responsibility.
Campuses. I take responsibility for any behavior of our faculty.
So is this acceptable? Is this acceptable?
Any behavior that is anti-Semitic.
Is this acceptable that the legal defense fund for Mahmoud Khalil is the head of CUNY Clear? That's acceptable under your watch.
We do have no tolerance for anti-Semitism on our campuses, and we've been very
So will this person be fired?
Anybody that breaks our rules and our policies, there'll be an investigation. We'll investigate, and if there's any disciplinary action to be taken, we'll take it.
Let me make a prediction. No disciplinary action. This individual is not going to be fired because it's all words, no action. You have failed the people of New York. You have failed Jewish students in New York State, and it is a disgrace.
And she is fantastic. Elise Stefanik, and she will be on Life, Liberty, and Levin on Saturday, just so you know. And she's fantastic. Speaking of fantastic, I've always been a big fan of Mike Waltz. Mike Waltz had his hearing today to be ambassador to the United Nations, nominated by President Trump. Of course, the Democrats bring out their long knives, and they really are disgusting. They defend felons. They defend illegal aliens. They defend violent illegal aliens. And then you have a guy here who was a Green Beret, who served his country valiantly. And they try and make a big issue out of this signal thing, and then they try to destroy him from day one. Isn't it sick? Aren't these people nuts? Cut 2, go.
We must also challenge pervasive anti-Semitism. From 2015 to 2023, the General Assembly passed 154 resolutions against Israel versus 71 against all other nations combined. UNRWA in Gaza, with its staff involved in the October 7th massacre, its schools teaching anti-Semitic hate, must be dismantled. The reappointment of Special Rapporteur Francesca Albanese, with her calls to boycott American companies doing business with Israel, highlights this bias. President Trump's executive order, Chairman Risch, your Stand With Israel Act require withholding funds from such bodies. And I fully support Representative Elise Stefanik's proposal for an Abraham Accords caucus within the UN.
And so, because of his strong positions, he will be hated by the Democrats, who no longer support Israel. He'll be hated by the self-appointed phony fake MAGA influencers, many of whom are downright anti-Semite thugs. But the vast majority of the American people will support him. Cut 3, go.
The UN's radical politicization. Such reports as, quote, stolen Native American land, reports and investigations, quote, called the George Floyd mechanism, labeling American police in America systemically racist, with input from countries like Cuba and Venezuela, it's unacceptable. Mr. Chairman, Ronald Reagan once said the UN can, quote, solve problems or spread discord. He said the choice is ours. In just 6 months, President Trump has brought dozens of hostages home, justice for our Abbey Gate Gold Star families, secured the border, denied Iran a nuclear weapon, brought ceasefires to conflicts in Africa, the Middle East, and Asia. Yet there is still tremendous work to be done. I'm confident under this president's leadership, we can continue to spread peace and prosperity, and I'm confident we can make the UN great again.
Now, Chris Coons is the highly unattractive little munchkin senator from the state of Delaware who basically worked his way up the political ladder because he had his head so far up Biden's ass it was coming out of Biden's right nostril. May I say that, Mr. Producer? And he's relatively useless, but there he is. Cut 4, go.
Were you investigated for this disclosure of sensitive...
Now keep in mind, we have the auto pen scandal, which is a massive scandal, right? And these guys say, what do we don't worry about that. That's no big deal. Here we have Biden, who stole classified information when he was vice president, stole it when he was a senator. Of course, the prosecutor said at the point, I can't really prosecute this guy because he's dumber than a potato. So the Democrats went nuts, but now here they have a hero in front of them, Mike Waltz, who fought for his country as a Green Beret. And you have these political boneheads, these political munchkins, trying to make an issue. Go ahead.
Were you investigated for this disclosure of sensitive operational information on Signal?
Thank you, Senator. And that engagement was driven by and recommended by the Cyber Security Infrastructure Security Agency, by the Biden administration, CISA guidance.
I'm sorry.
And I have here, just the use of Signal.
Share information on Signal.
The use of, the use of Signal is not only as an encrypted app, is not only authorized, it was recommended in Biden's, the Biden era CISA guidance. And in fact, if you just, it says here, I'll read it to you. Use only end-to-end encrypted communications. Adopt a free messaging application to secure communications that guarantees end-to-end encryption, particularly if you are a highly targeted.
All right, let me cut to the chase here. What happened was a staffer, and Waltz has taken all the heat because he's a class act, accidentally used a number of this journalist and included them in on the call. It's not like Walt sat there and set up the call. I mean, Mr. Producer, not often, but I'll say to you, let's set up a phone meeting with XYZ and you and me, right? I have no idea how you're doing that. I'm not involved in it. I'm doing 1,000 other things, and that's an area that you handle. I rely on Rich for a lot, actually. But that's an area you handle. So if something like that happened, I wouldn't throw you under the bus. I'd take the heat, too. But it's not even the end of the world here. What exactly was relayed that was so important? All the times that we were hitting and the locations we were hitting, but it didn't have any consequence. And this reporter, oddly enough, he says, look at the violation here, and it could have done this and it could have done that. It would have done nothing if the guy kept his mouth shut, but he wanted a story and he wanted to attack Waltz and the administration. He wanted to create controversy. And that's what happened. And I think Waltz would make an outstanding ambassador to the United Nations. Now, we're going to watch this committee. We're going to see who votes how. And it's just amazing to me. You literally have Democrats on this committee who have used Hamas talking points and data to trash our ally Israel. And they're wondering if Waltz is qualified to be at the United Nations. Think about this, America. Think about the Democrat Party, how disgusting that operation is. And they don't even have the guts to denounce this Mamdani. Mamdani is a Klansman without the white robe. Does that help people? Does that help people, Mr. Producer? He's a Klansman without the robe and the hood. But we see what's under it anyway. A bigot. Yeah, that's right, I said it. In addition to his Marxist policies. There he is, what I've been talking about for years. There's the fusion of Marxism and Islamism. There it is, right there, in front of your eyes. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If you're with one of the big three wireless carriers, you're really overpaying for your service, period. You're paying for thousands of retail stores you never go into. You're paying for unnecessary perks you never use. You're paying a massive premium for what you think is superior 5G service. Guess what? Pure Talk uses the same 5G network on the same 5G towers. The only difference, they don't charge you for any of the garbage. Instead, Pure Talk gives you unlimited talk, text, plenty of data for just $25 a month. Folks, that's less than half the price of the big guys during a time when saving $1 really matters. I am a Pure Talk customer. I have been for years. I made the switch. It's easy. You can even keep your phone and your number. So do this. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. And you'll save an additional 50% off your first month. You can switch over to Pure Talk in as little as 10 minutes. That's puretalk.com/Levin, Levin. To switch to Pure Talk, wireless by Americans, for Americans. Good Lord, the program's 2 hours are up already. Maxwell Frost is another one of these relatively newly elected members of Congress. He's got a horrible chip on his shoulder. Everything is about racism and bigotry and so forth and so on. And you have Ana Navarro on CNN. She's another tool. She's another moron. Everything's about racism and so forth and so on. I've never seen anything like this. Truly. If race is actually stopping you from achieving what you feel you should be able to achieve, we've got laws, local, state, and federal, all over the place. If somebody's discriminating against you based on your race, or in my case, religion or whatever, there's all kinds of protections. This is the United States of America. But when we're rounding up illegal aliens, and people say that's because we don't like the color of their skin, it just shows you how insane, these punks are. Absolutely insane. The border's wide open. People are coming in, mostly from the third world. Mostly from the third world. Whether it's the continent of Africa, whether it's Central South America, whether it's, well, communist China, the Middle East. They're all the third world other than communist China, because we helped obviously build them up. But so when they come from these places, you're not allowed to recognize that they're here. And when you go into certain communities to round up illegal aliens, you're not allowed to do that. So now I guess we're supposed to have a quota system. I don't know. But it's whatever works, you see, whatever they can do to throw a wrench into the system. Because these politicians hate us, hate America.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, we'll take calls at the bottom of the hour, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. I've been meaning to get to this. George Soros, New York Post, really one of the great newspapers, really is. George Soros funneled $37 million to Working Families Party, other lefty groups backing Zohran Mamdani. So you hear this jackass, Bernie, the Stalinist Sanders, oh, the billionaires, the billionaires. They never mention they're billionaires, do they? Opinion piece by Rich Calder. That's rich. Socialist Zohran Mamdani has declared billionaires shouldn't exist, but isn't unlikely. But it's unlikely he'd be the front runner to become the Big Apple's next mayor if it wasn't for one. Far-left kingmaker George Soros. Financial records reviewed by the Post show. Mamdani recently told NBC's Meet the Depressed, I don't think we should have billionaires. You know what, a-hole? Who gives a damn what you think? Honestly, you're running for mayor. You don't get to change the whole country, the whole city, the whole society. You nobody, you 33-year-old jerk. That's right, you moron. While doubling down on his plan to jack up property taxes on richer and whiter neighborhoods if elected mayor. Racist pig. But in less than a decade, Soros' ultra-woke grant-making network, Open Society Foundation, yeah, right, has indirectly funneled a combined $37 million to the Working Families Party. Oh, that doesn't sound too commie. And at least other 9 left-wing groups whose endorsements and get-out-the-vote groundwork played a pivotal role in helping Mamdani upset ex-governor Andrew Cuomo. So did Cuomo. In the Democrat mayoral primary, the foundation's records show. Since 2016, the far-left socialist-friendly WFP, which helped score Mamdani the Democratic line by brokering cross-endorsement deals that squeezed out Cuomo, has pocketed a staggering $23.7 million. See, they get rich. These bastards get rich while they're preaching Marxism. $23.7 million from Soros through its nonprofit fundraising arm, Working Families Organization. But they don't believe in working families. They believe in families on the dole. It should be Families on the Dole Organization. Another at least almost $14 million went to the 9 nonprofits and their offshoot fundraising entities, including Make the Road Action. Is that even literate? Social justice nonprofit Community Voices Heard. Move On, I wish they would. The anti-Zionist group Jewish Voice for Peace Action. Now, Jewish Voice for Peace is a Marxist, Islamist front group that pretends to be Jewish. All those groups back the Queen's Assemblyman's mayoral campaign as well as his Marxist agenda that includes advocating for criminal migrants and condemning Israel. Boy, sounds like one of these isolationists, Mr. Producer. While Zohran Mamdani attacks job creators and rails against wealth, the truth is he's benefiting from millions in support from billionaires, the very nonprofit network he pretends to stand apart from, said Mayor Eric Adams. Can't have it both ways. We need leadership. that brings people together, not politicians who demonize success while quietly cashing in on it. That be true. The idea that billionaires or successful people shouldn't exist isn't just extreme, it's un-American. And the mayor's right about that. Nuts. He wears this kifa, whatever the hell it's called. Oh, yes, that's very in now, kifas. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? Oh, yes, the kifa. That's what Arafat used to wear. A terrorist. So they have all these connections to terrorists. They identify with terrorists. They regurgitate the BS of terrorists. They regurgitate their data. But don't call him a terrorist. No. Don't call him a terrorist. Well, they're as close to it as you can possibly imagine. But, you know, this guy's not alone, this Mamdani. Because we're breeding this in our country. Our borders are wide open, and these people are coming into our country. Have you met Omar Fedeh? F-A-T-E-H? Omar Fedeh, the next Zohran Mamdani. He's running for mayor of Minneapolis, which is heavily Somali, and he's Somali. Minneapolis, writes Jasmine Jordan, may be getting its own version of New York in Breitbart here. Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, State Senator Omar Fedeh, a self-proclaimed democratic socialist. These are Marxist Islamists. And the first Somali-American and Muslim to serve in the Minnesota Senate, congratulations, is running for mayor of Minneapolis on a platform of pro-illegal immigrant. Do you ever think you live in a country where we have people running on a platform of pro-illegal aliens? Because this means they have no tie to the country. They have no tie to our value system. They have no allegiance to the country. That's what that has to mean. Pro-illegal immigration, anti-cop, anti-Israel. Fatah once accused Representative Lauren Boebert of white supremacy for opposing taxpayer-funded colleges for illegal aliens. That's how sick these people are. Sick. Is running for mayor of Minneapolis. It's becoming England, where so many of these cities and towns in England now are run by Islamists. Not just Muslims, Islamists. Islamists. In a campaign video posted to X, Fatah unveiled a platform echoing New York-style socialism, a.k.a. Marxism. And it goes on. He wants a minimum wage, $20 an hour. It goes on and on. You know, the usual bat crap crazy nonsense. Well, he's all in. And so that's Minneapolis. We got New York. And there'll be other cities down the pike, no doubt about it. Isn't this fantastic? Meanwhile, they're attacking ICE. They're attacking the Biden administration. Secretary Noem. You've got attacking Homan. Oh, yeah. And let's see here. I'm sick of even playing the clips of these numbskulls. Absolute numbskulls. Trump is outside the White House today talking about Crockett and AOC. Two morons in a pod. Here's what he says. Cut 9, go.
You know, AOC, look, I think she's very nice, but she's very low IQ.
Nah.
And we really don't need low IQ. Between her and Crockett, we're going to give them both an IQ test to see who comes out best. Now, I took my test. I took a real test at Walter Reed Medical Center, and I aced it. I got every one of all those questions right. Now it's time for them to take a test.
Yeah, why don't they? Is it me, or is the caliber of the Democrats in Congress just keeps sinking lower and lower, Mr. Producer? These are very sick people. The way they talk, their ideology. Again, this is revolution by immigration. Not that she's an immigrant or AOC's an immigrant. I'm talking about people who vote for them, among others. This whole Hamas agenda, this whole anti-Semitism agenda, You can't remember this in the United States. This is, the last 5 years, 8 years, something like this? And it's rabid. It's rabid. And it's got a big home in the Democrat Party and a bit in a corner of the Republican Party, which I'm fighting. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Very active call board tonight. Very active. So we'll jump right in. Let's go to Dave, Surprise, Arizona, the great KKNT. Dave, how are you, sir?
I'm blessed. Thank you so much, Mr. Lynn. So
you're welcome.
We talked about this back in 2020. This is the Red-Green Alliance. It's the marriage of Marxism and Islamism. I'll give a big hat tip to Dr. Soul. I said in 2020 that we had moved into the grievance culture phase of our society, this culture war, because plantation politics never worked past 2016, 2020. President Trump has proven that. So I think that's where we are, and people need to wake up to the fact
Well, I know that's where we are. There's no question about it. And the only way people wake up is if we, the people, speak to other people and make this a primary issue. And it's very, very important.
Here in Arizona, sir, planting seeds every day.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Appreciate all you do.
You too, Dave. God bless, buddy. Let's keep going. Tracy, Sarasota, Florida, on the Mark Levin app. Tracy, how are you?
I'm doing good, Mark. How about you?
Okay, thank you.
This is the great one. I finally get to speak to you.
Thank you.
I've been looking forward to it. I know you're very busy, but I just want to compliment you, first of all. I listen to you every Saturday and Sunday night. I set my alarm, and if I miss you that time, I watch you at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, thank you very much.
If only I had you as a history teacher, I would know more than what I do.
You know what's funny about what you say there is I've said to my wife, I've actually said, when I retire, maybe that's what I ought to do. Just teach a couple classes at a local school. If they'll have me. They may not even have me.
I'm in Florida, so if you ever do that, announce it, because I would love to learn from you.
Thank you, Tracy.
You're so passionate, and I enjoy. I'm just like, you get so fired up, I'm always worried you're going to have a heart attack on me.
Well, I've had one of those, but I don't think I'll have another one.
Well, I just wanted to say a few things because I tried to get you in the past, but I think my call got dropped, but that's beside the point. I got you now, and I'm thankful for that. I just want to say that I'm very thankful that we got President Trump, and I pray for him every day and his family and his cabinet. And I think it's kind of ridiculous that the left are so stupid that they can't think of one good thing to say about what he's done when they couldn't do anything in 4 years to make our country better.
The left is not interested in an honest discussion about anything. They're interested in conquering us. They want to conquer us. And the more virtuous and altruistic, the more successful a president is, or somebody who's before one of these committees for one of these positions, the more they try to destroy them. Because they have a completely different approach to what's going on in this country right now. It is an unconstitutional approach. It is a non-sovereignty approach. It is war on the citizenry. Half the public realizes it, half the public does not. But they are changing our country in front of our eyes. They are doing this revolution by immigration. They are destroying the Constitution while claiming to protect it and defend it. They are autocrats while accusing everybody else of being autocrats, and they are racist anti-Semites while accusing everybody else of being racist anti-Semites. So they're not interested. At this point, they're interested in power. They're power hungry. They want one-party system. That's why they keep trying to change the voting system. That's why they have illegal aliens in here, so they can get more members of Congress in here because you're counting people, not citizens, even though you should count citizens. So they're full bore ahead. They're billionaires who are funding these radical left-wing front groups, this litigation, these candidates. This is a full-on counter-revolution to the American Revolution. It's going on right now.
Yep, I agree.
I don't mean to upset people, but we better wake up to this.
Yep. During the voting season, my sister-in-law, she understands more about politics than I do, and she tries to teach me. And she told me, if you have any, because I'm from Pennsylvania, and she tells me, you need to get a hold of all your friends and tell them to vote for Trump because they were doing something, the voters, where they were, if they were Republican, they were knocking them off or something. And so I contacted all my friends and, spread the word. You need to vote early. Don't wait. Because they're messing around with the system, and when you go to vote, if you wait, you won't be able to vote for Trump. So,
now, where in Pennsylvania are you from?
I'm from Pittsburgh.
It's all right. I'm from the Philly area.
I know.
All right, young lady.
I don't know why everybody hates each other, but
I don't. But I'll tell you what, don't hang up. You know what? I meant to do this with the others, too, but you're going to be, if not the first, among the first. Mr. Producer is going to take your name and number, and when my book comes out on Power, we're going to send you a signed copy. So don't hang up. He's going to get your name and address, and thank you. You take care of yourself. God bless. Let's go to Jan, Sussex County, New Jersey, WABC. Yes, Jan.
Hi, Mark. First off, I have to thank you and Julie. I met you both at a book signing at Bookends, and when I was talking to you, you asked me a question, and I kind of lost it. I was the one that got super emotional. This was, I think a couple of years ago now, and Julie was so sweet to me, and I've been trying to get through to thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Well, thank you. But Julie is very sweet. She's sweeter than I am, isn't she?
Yes, and I tell you what, I can't believe she is so cute.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a good one there.
I do.
But
and by the way, just so you know, this book signing will not be at Bookends. We're going to have it at Books and Greetings, located in Northvale Square, Northvale, New Jersey, not too far from that area. I hope if you have a chance, you'll come over.
Okay,
Saturday,
I
August
drove all
2nd.
the way down from Sussex County. It was a rainy day.
Okay, well, maybe not.
Yeah. So, and what I wanted to talk about, too, tonight is that Qasem, he's the attorney representing that Colombian student.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought him up not too long ago, and I'm thinking, wow, people are finally starting to connect the dots. Mm-hmm. He is a Paul and Daisy Soros Foundation New American Fellow. He's from Syria, and he's a big-time anti-Semite. He taught at a CUNY Law School and a couple other law schools, and he also worked for Joe Biden this past administration under the advisory committee.
That's shocking.
So,
Isn't that shocking? A Democrat president would have people like that. It's just... The Democrat Party is really, it's not just an opposition party. It's not just a political party. It is now the home base of the most radical, extremist, American-hating elements in our country. The Islamists, the Marxists, and God knows what else. All right, my friend, they're telling me, they're waving me off. I got to take a break. Don't be upset. Don't hang up. We're going to get Jan's name and number and send her a signed book, too. We'll be right back.
The establishment's worst nightmare. Mark Levin. Call in now. 877-381-3811.
Mm-hmm. Got that right. All right, let's go. Bill, San Diego, California, XM satellite. Go. Yellow.
Mark, may you live 1,000 years.
Wow, jeez. Well, thank you, but I can tell you that ain't happening. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Do you recall when you came out to San Diego with Sean Hannity?
I do.
On that concert. Yes.
Long time ago.
A long time ago. And I heard that Sean was coming out doing a concert. And when I heard that Mark Levin was also coming, I got tickets. That's what
thank you.
spurred me to
He's
get
my
tickets.
buddy.
So I show up at the concert. I have my Men in Black book with me, hoping to get a signature on my book, and that never quite happened. And I was hoping for like a 10 to 13 minute speech on the tyranny of the Democrat Party.
Yeah,
and I didn't know what to expect being there, and I'm not that big a fan of country music, but when they said Mark Levin was coming, I'm showing up.
First of all, you're very kind. Secondly, I'm glad you got in, because I'll send you a signed copy of On Power, my new book. Just don't hang up. And that's very, very sweet of you, Bill. I appreciate it. So don't hang up, and we'll get you a signed copy. All these years, at least you get a book that's signed now. God bless you, brother. I got great audience, great fans, I tell you. I am so lucky, and I know it. I know it. That's why I treat you with respect. I tell you the truth, tell you the facts. Eduardo, Oakland, California, XM Satellite. Eduardo, how are you, sir?
I'm doing really well, thank you, sir. Mark, I understand that and I feel that you're a very humble man, but I have to say something.
Uh-oh.
In all honesty, I really want to appreciate, in the name of the American people, your dedicated, loyal, and devoted commitment on this tremendous task of trying to save the United States of America. And I'm saying this in all sincerity. I'm not making this up. I'm almost having tears right now. Listen, you started the show with Milton Friedman.
First of all, thank you. Thank you. And I can hear the emotion in your voice, and I share it. Thank you very much, Eduardo. Go right ahead.
And there is a reason why I get this emotional. Listen, I don't know what to say, what to do to warn the American people of the danger, the peril that it means to have someone like this guy Mamdani just proposing to be a mayor of pretty much the very bottom of the world, which is New York City. I don't know if he's going to succeed on that, but this is my warning. This can be something that is like a cancer and spread throughout the entire country. And the reason I'm saying this, I came legally to this country from Venezuela, and that country used to be, people don't know that, used to be one of the richest countries in the entire world. It used to be. And I grew up in that part of that country. And now the children of my country of origin, I'm a U.S. citizen now, they are searching among the garbage to find something to eat.
Awful.
So if people think that this is not happening, it's like, how come people don't understand that socialism does not work? And I'm so glad we started with this gentleman that I've been listening for many years, back in the day, Mr. Friedman. He was totally right on the point. And I already lost one republic. I really don't want to lose a second one.
Amen.
So the only thing that I can say is that thank you so much for doing this. Please do never stop doing it. You have no idea how many people you are touching with this, and you have all the support of people.
Well, thank you, Eduardo. And they absolutely destroyed Venezuela, which was a fantastic country, a free country, a very wealthy country, and they destroyed it. And this is a very important reminder to everybody, especially the people in New York and Minneapolis, that these people come in and they talk about what they're going to do and so forth, and they rob and they steal, and the people that suffer, the middle class and the lower middle class, they destroy these countries, and then they hold on to power. And they're never going to give up. Every damn one of them is rich. Have you ever seen any of these Marxists who aren't rich, Eduardo? They're all worth billions of dollars. Have you noticed that?
Oh, absolutely. It's something that is impossible to be hidden from plain sight. You just have to see. If you go to Venezuela, you will see these armored cars, And then you see this guy who is ugly as something, the worst nightmare, ugly, and then a beautiful 20-year-old comes with a guy wearing like Louis Vuitton, I don't know, whatever the shoes brands are, coming out of and they just walk with this cynicism in front of poverty. In front of poverty. These people have not morals. When Mark, you're being changed. And again, I'm not a person who likes to flatter people. I'm not that way. If you knew me in person, I'm not. And the reason I'm saying this with all these feelings is because you're doing I don't know, you probably get frustrated when you see what's happening in this country. Because it's every single show, those 3 hours that you have, and then the weekend, the other hours, you are making an emphasis how these people are. I have 2 of your books, the last 2 books, and I hope to wait until the next one comes.
Yeah, you hold on, Eduardo. I'll send you my new book. It's not out yet. It'll be out in 2 weeks. We'll get it to you. So don't hang up. We want your full name and address so we can get it to you. I want to thank you. Your comments really are very, very touching to me, and I'm not giving up. I'm not backing down. God bless you, my friend. Listen to these fabulous callers. Just fabulous. Let's go to Tim, New York City, the great WABC. Tim, go right ahead, please.
Hey, Mark, thanks for taking my call. I'm a lifelong native New Yorker, born and bred. I'm a proud American, a proud Jew. We've never had anyone like this nightmare, Mamdani, and I'm not exaggerating. He is a nightmare. He's anti-Semitic. He's anti-American. He's a Marxist. I don't think I was listening to Dov Hikind yesterday, and he was saying if all of them stay in the race, if Adams and Cuomo and Sliwa all stay in the race, Mamdani's going to win. I think we have to vote for whoever is going to defeat this Mamdani guy. I don't know if Sliwa, we all love Curtis, by the way. We all love Curtis Sliwa here in New York, but I don't know if he has the numbers to win. We've got to defeat this guy, and I will vote for whoever has the best shot at defeating this guy.
Well, I think that's rational. And there's still time to play out here, not a ton of time. I just wish these 3 would get together and get behind one of them, because I just think it's going to be very tough. Now, in Curtis's defense, I mean, he is the Republican nominee. Cuomo lost the Democrat primary. Now he found another home. The mayor couldn't win the Democrat primary, so he went independent. So it's a mess. It's a mess. This is exactly how the enemy exploits these things. They create a voting system, this ranked voting system, which is always intended to get somebody elected who can't get a majority vote. We see with Lisa Murkowski in Alaska. It's all over the state of California. All these lefties and rhinos like that system, rather than you have to get a majority of the vote. So you can actually get somebody in there who gets a plurality of the vote. They've slipped into this Democrat primary. And of course, the Marxists and the Islamists who don't believe in democracy to begin with, let alone constitutional republicanism, they exploit these things. They take advantage of them. Hey, Tim, don't hang up. We're going to get your name and address, your full name, and we'll get you a copy of On Power when it comes out, too, signed. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Let's go to Jeff, State College, Pennsylvania, XM Satellite. I went to State College. I went to Penn State for one summer to graduate early. It was quite a wonderful experience. How are you, Jeff?
I'm doing good, sir. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be speaking with you.
Thank you.
And I appreciate all that you do, and I hope you can train some people to follow in your footsteps.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I know you won't be around forever, and neither will I, but we need more of you. But anyhow, this guy from New York, I mean, I've never seen such an idiot before in all my time of, various elections throughout the year. And it's like, I'm worried about, okay, this is just New York. Where's it going to be next? And, when the midterms come up, we have to really get on the ball, on the stick now so we can try to get 30 seats. So we can at least maybe grab 10 additional ones. And for common sense, I don't know how you can. I always said if I could teach common sense, I'd be the richest SOB in the world.
Yeah.
But, that's why I like your ear and then many other, good broadcasters out there that do a good job as well. But, we need to get on the stick now so we can try to get things under control.
Now, this is very important. I've actually talked about it a little bit. I need to talk about it more. You're right. The midterm elections, we really need to win those. We need to gain more seats. It's contra history. It's ahistorical, but it needs to be done. And it's not going to be easy. But we still need to do it, because otherwise the country's going to go to hell. It just is. And Jeff, don't hang up. It's your lucky day on Power. I'll send you a signed copy when it turns out. Don't hang up. God bless you, my friend. Let's keep moving quickly. Harvey in Black Hills, South Dakota. Harvey, how are you?
Hey, Mark. So great to be able to talk to you here tonight. I'm really excited. I have all your books. They're highlighted because they are a road path of knowledge. But the big thing about your books are they are prescriptive. And I hope that your listening audience understands that there are answers and there are positive things we can do. The Liberty Amendments are absolutely a must-do. And so many of our problems are caused by things that we, the only people on earth, that have a way to be able to change our government. It's in our hands, but we only have the courage to do it.
That's beautifully put.
I urge you to be able to have, and I love listening to all your programs, but I would love to have you go down the rabbit hole to be able to explain that many of these things that we've experienced with this past administration would have not been a problem had we done such things as formalize a method for nullification, for example, or your balanced budget approach. I mean, so many great ideas. They're in our hands. We just need to be able to inform our neighbors so that we can step forward and make this happen. So I salute
you make a great point. I mean, look, as an example, people are going to be shocked with what I'm going to say. People are going to be shocked with what I'm going to say, and yet there is an answer to this. When it comes to the debt, Congress cannot fix it. Congress cannot fix the debt. It's not politically feasible for Congress to fix the debt, which is why they don't fix it. That's why we have Article 5, because through the state legislature process and the Convention of States, that's how you fix it. And to fix it, they will never cut the debt, is to limit its growth to the percentage increase in the gross domestic product every year, as Milton Friedman proposed, and it's in the Liberty Amendments. That's how you get it under control. And it will get it under control and eventually get it balanced. But the problem is, if you expect the people who blew up the debt to cut the debt, then we're wasting an awful lot of time. And we go through this every year, this fan dance, 5, 10, 12 of them, 20 of them will beat their chest. And I'm saying, no, we got to do Convention of States. Let's get this under control. Great call, my friend. Don't hang up, Harvey. On Power, my brand new book's going to come your way when it comes out signed. So don't hang up. Folks, you can grab your copy too at Amazon.com. I hope you will. The time is getting close. This is our great, big national town hall meeting. People don't realize there's 14 million of you, but I do. Have a wonderful night. God bless you.